guys, welcome back to the channel. So we're going to cover another DLC that was added to Nobunaga's Ambition, Awakening Complete Edition. And also, I don't know if I mentioned this in the first part when I covered Birth of Nobunaga, but these DLCs you can basically purchase if you're like on PS4. They're offered as like a set of 6 for, I think it's like 14 bucks, 15 bucks, let's say 15 because taxes, right? So like 15 bucks you can get the set of 6. Minus, like, there's 2 that are included in complete edition that you don't get access to. One is the Tencho Monkey Show, and I think the other one's Muskets Arrive. Anyway, we're covering the 1598 scenario, Widespread Might. So same thing as the first time. I'm going to cover them based on 3 different categories. We have the unique category. How different is it? How much does it stand out from the other stuff in the game, the other starting dates in the game? Replayability. You know, how many, well, literally replayability. How many, can you change it up? Is there different ways, different avenues to play this, or does it just kind of stick to one road no matter what? And the last thing, the cool factor, you know, is the cool factor is the X factor. You know, what does it have? Something that's just very fucking cool, you know, that stands out, that's like, okay, this date has this. Everything else has this, but this date right here, this one has this, right? So those are the 3 categories. So 1598, Nobukatsu Oda. Starting with the unique. Okay, so how much does this starting date stand out compared to the others, right? To what else we have available? Well, not very much. Okay? Not very much. The premise of this is that Nobukatsu decides to keep the territory that Hideyoshi offered him. And so you get Nobukatsu starting with most of Tokai and Kai and most of Shinano up here. And you also get the Uesugi. You know, the Uesugi are 2 years away from being moved to their domain over here, being kicked out and being replaced by the Hori. Okay? So map-wise, when you look at this map and you compare it to 1600, it's almost the same. That's really the big standouts here. The Uesugi are 2 years away from being moved, which if you're an Uesugi player, great. You know, that's a little bit of a nuance there. And the Nobukatsu start, which he has Hidenobu's faction as a vassal and Toshie's faction as a vassal, at least for a year until his son takes over, a year or 2. That's pretty much it. So unless you like, you're a fan of Nobukatsu, or you're a fan of comebacks, of bringing back a clan, of a resurgence type runs, unless you're the type of player that's like, hey, you know, I'm gonna take this force that's down and out, and I'm gonna build them back, bring them back from the brink. There's not a lot else that's different, hardly anything. So the uniqueness, honestly, I got to give it a 2 out of 5 on this one. Short and sweet. This is basically 2 years before Sekigahara, and it feels like it's 2 years before Sekigahara. This could have been an email energy written all over it. Okay, you know how you're on the weekend, you're supposed to be your days off, and then your boss calls and he says, everyone get on a conference call. Get on a conference call. And you spend 2 hours on that conference call on a Saturday when you could be doing anything else. You're on that phone, and you're thinking to yourself, this could have been an email. Okay, that's how this feels. This scenario feels like, and a couple of these are actually like that. You know, that's just how it is. That's how this one feels. This is very much phoned in. Koei said, hey, what if Nobukatsu kept his domain? And then they just left it there. That was it. They're like, all right, job well done. We're done. Moving on, right? Okay, so that's uniqueness, 2 out of 5. Not great, not good. Replay value. Okay, now replay value is a little bit of a different story, okay? And I'll tell you why. Normally, once you get past 1584, you could even say 1582 if you're running events, right? Which you probably are if you're newer to the game. Once you get past 1582, the map is divided between these 2 forces. The yellow, Toyotomi here, and then you have this green over here, the Tokugawa. And there's really not much more room for anyone else to really do too much. No matter where you are on the map, it's only a matter of time before you run into the yellow or you run into the green, okay? That's past 1582. And as a result, a lot of people shy away from playing the later start dates because it's just too big titanic powers. Everything is built up to Sekigahara, right? The 1600 Battle of Sekigahara. And it affects these scenarios before it. So we have about five, is it? Maybe six starting dates where it's just red. It's just green versus yellow, and everyone else is kind of inconsequential. You have to work very, very hard to get any kind of traction before you hit one of those two, right? Having this start date with Nobukatsu here in the center adds a third force into the mix, into the center. And what it does is it upsets the balance of power a little bit, okay? Now, this is still Nobukatsu. Koei didn't do anything really to make him much stronger at all. So he is a stopgap measure, okay? But for replay value, this is one of the best starts in the later dates for small forces. So if you do want to play as a small force and you're starting in past 1582, past 1584, this is one of the better ones to do it in. Especially if you're going to be up into Hoku, if you're going to be around the capital region, anything like that. The reason being because you have this third force that's kind of propped up. Now it's not going to last. I mean, I predict. I haven't played this yet, but I can tell you, just looking at it, that it's just a matter of time. Again, Koei has this thing where sometimes they come up with an idea like this and they don't flesh it out enough. So without player agency, without the players stepping in and saying, how do we fix Nobukatsu? How do we keep Nobukatsu afloat? You can expect that he's going to expire relatively soon, caught between the two powers. But him existing is going to keep these powers busy for a little while, okay? Now suddenly there's something else for these two titans to fight, to gobble up between them for a little while you can get built up and execute your plan. Whatever your plan's going to be, if you're playing as one of these small guys, or if you're going to fight the Mory, which, by the way, the Mory have a lot of territory, yes, but they're a straw man. You know, they're a paper tiger. They're hollowed out by this point already. Okay, so they're not that tough. You can play in Kyushu. Again, if you're going to play in Kyushu at this start date, anywhere that you're going to be on this map, past 1582, this is the best time to do that. So that's what Nobukatsu brings to it. It props up the replayability a lot, especially compared to if you guys have played 82, 84. God help you if you've played the 86 start already. Sekigahara, it's only a 2-year difference, but it's enough. Having Nobukatsu here is enough. And another thing, that's kind of nice, the Uesugi, again, it does matter a lot for players. If you care about the Uesugi and you care about the new decisive battle mechanic, being up here in Echigo means that you have to capture the Echigo territories, which you have most of. You just have to expand west so that you can get regional unity, versus the 1600 where now you're in Tohoku, and now you must, as an Uesugi player, take all of this. This is a huge pain compared to just advancing west and grabbing this. So if you're an Uesugi player, and I don't see why I don't see why anyone hasn't played Uesugi, I highly recommend them. Might be one of the funnest clans, definitely on the top, the Mount Rushmore of clans to play in this game. But for this start, you just go west here, and you can very quickly prepare for a decisive battle. You can be on the road to getting a decisive battle trigger in the future. Very easy. So there's that little wrinkle in the scheme of things. But replayability, I would say a 3 out of 5. You know, it's still, you have to put work in. We're still talking post 1582, right? That's a whole video series I could do myself, just breaking down why 1582 is that decisive, that turning point where now, if you want to play as a player, as a small force, you have to plan around the yellow blob and the green blob, no matter what. And that requires experience, know-how. It just asks a lot for players. So if you've always been curious about playing post 1582, but you've kind of shied away because you've noticed the same thing, I would say give this one a spin. Um, for replayability, you can play a lot of these little forces. So again, 3 out of 5 for replayability. Now the last part, cool factor. What is the cool factor? Is there a cool factor? Well, do you like Nobukatsu? How do you feel about the Oda? Widespread might. That sounds kind of cool, huh? It's kind of a whack ass effect. It's kind of honestly, it's very underwhelming. But how do you feel about Nobukatsu? You know, I personally I love playing as clans that are trying to make another go, right? I love clans that the houses, their best days are behind them. You know, how do you feel about reviving the glory of Rome in Total War, right? How do you feel about turning back the tide as the Byzantines when you play a medieval Total War or Europa, right? That's if you're that type of player, you're gonna love this because we're playing as the Oda, we're playing as the cover boy's kid, one of his kids, and he's making a final bid for power to restore his clan. Very cool. Very fucking cool. If you care about the Oda. And, again, if you care about the Uesugi, if you're an Uesugi enthusiast, this is gonna matter. Hey, I can start here. I can almost have the same roster as the Uesugi, the same group of people, only 2 years apart, except I'm starting here versus being banished into Hoku hell. That's a big deal. I know it doesn't sound like much, but it is a big deal. So the cool factor, I would say 4 out of 5. Again, the premise is awesome. The premise is awesome. The execution is not good. That's where you know what I mean? That's where you have to, I think, step in as the player and figure out how am I going to make this work for me. But the premise is very cool. Again, Nobukatsu saying, I'm going to try to revive my dad's house and make a bid against these two titans. And, again, all by himself, he's not going to make it. He's not going to make it. It's going to take a good player to fight these two titans. If you're going to fight these two titans, right? But, that's up to you. So, cool factor, I'd say a 4 out of 5. And really, that's it. There's not really too much to say about this one. It's very similar to Sekigahara. It's low effort. I got to be honest with you guys. This is a low effort. I've seen scenarios like this in Romance 14, in the Romance series, where they just kind of say, hey, let's do this idea, and then they just stop there. So, this isn't the last one. This isn't the last starting date that's like this, but this is the first one I'm covering. So yeah, Uniqueness, 2 out of 5. Again, it's just barely any effort put in. Again, could have been an email. The whole thing could have been an email energy all over it. And replay value, 3 out of 5. It just totally depends on how much work you put into this. How much work do you want to put into this sucker? It's up to you. And then coolness factor, 4 out of 5. If you like the Oda, if you love playing as houses that are collapsing and trying to turn the tide, you're going to feel right at home playing this. There's a little bit of play here with your vassals that you have. Make up your own rules. Try to, again, however much you're willing to put in is how much you'll get out. So, anyway, that's going to be it for this one. I will see you guys on the next one. If you guys enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're going to have more coverage for the DLC scenarios. We're going to have trait videos, live streams. We've got a community series. I should have said this. I should have said this right away, but we're going to have a community series starting in this scenario every Saturday. So definitely stop by. Those will be live streams. Definitely stop by on that and say hello. Let me know if you've decided to play this. And yeah, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Until then, take care, everybody.